So today we're going to talk about how the Fed might crash the real estate market. They've got two options and both are poison. So the Fed has a choice of two poisons, either combat inflation or create a recession. This video is going to talk to you about which one I think is going to happen. So let's first talk about inflation. So the fork in the road, if it moves towards inflation, it seems to be the most probable, and here's why. As you can see, it wasn't that long ago in 2020 that the economy was right around a 2% inflation, which is the Federal Reserve's target. Since that time, over about 18 months, we've seen inflation rise, and here's a breakdown of all the different components that make up inflation. Now, the Federal Reserve's chairman, Jerome Powell, is definitely in the hot seat right now as he stares down the economy and he's trying to figure out, do I combat inflation? Because inflation, remember, makes 100% of the people poorer. It erodes people's incomes and their savings accounts. Inflation impacts everyone, where a recession is more of a lag, but inflation left untethered is going to continue to erode people's incomes and their ability to live, and could potentially force things like more homelessness and not be able to pay for their rent. Now, what's most important for you to look at here is that it's taken almost 2 years for inflation to rise. We can see that it takes a while for inflation to creep up, and it's going to take a while for inflation to creep back down. Some people think it could take a year to 2 years to get inflation down to the 2% target rate. Hopefully you've been paying attention to these Federal Reserve meetings, because at every single meeting this year, they've raised the federal funds rate and they have 3 more to go. So the Federal Reserve has to pick their poison. Do they increase interest rates and combat inflation to help 100% of the people, or do they push the economy into a recession? I think they're going to do the latter. So now let's talk about a recession and what that means to you. So what is a recession? A recession is a significant decline in economic activity that lasts for months or even years. Experts declare a recession when a nation's economy experiences negative gross domestic product, or GDP, rising levels of unemployment, we're going to talk about that in a minute, falling retail sales, and contracting measures of income and manufactured for an extended period of time. Recessions are considered an unavoidable part of the business cycle, or a regular cadence of expansion and contraction that occurs in a nation's economy. So the one thing that the media is focused on right now about levels of unemployment, which is currently at 3.6%, which is very good and healthy. However, the economy has for sure slowed down as the cost of borrowing has gone up, as I'm going to show you here in a minute. So experts are debating on whether or not there is a recession or isn't, and I just don't even think it matters. I believe that the Fed is going to continue to raise rates and drive levels of unemployment up as a result of trying to curb inflation. So what does that mean for the real estate market? So I think the real estate market has peaked largely, certainly in single-family homes, which I'm going to show you in a minute, and on the commercial side, which I'm very active in. We're probably somewhere right about here. We've peaked and we're on our way down, so call it in the first few innings. A typical recession could last anywhere from 6 to 12 months, generally. So that means that we might have a 6 to 12 month fall in housing prices as the interest rates continue to go up and we combat inflation for everyone. Obviously, in real estate, you want to be buying right in here. So don't be confused by the media saying we have low unemployment, because what's happening is the cost of borrowing is going up, and so real estate sales are going down, credit card rates are going up. So the economy is slowing down, which is exactly what we need to do to combat inflation. Now, there are several kinds of recessions. There's a V, a U, a W, and an L. And there's all kinds of experts trying to predict what kind of recession this is going to be. Obviously, we hope that it bounces back quickly and is a V recession. You should be prepared for a long recession or more of an L recession. There are a lot of factors that are going to determine this in the future, but it's important that you watch what they are. I believe we are in a recession and we are heading into a deeper recession as they continue to drive unemployment up as they combat inflation. So now let's take a look at it as it compares to housing. So on the left-hand side, you see the U.S. interest rates. On the right-hand side, you see the new home sales. And of course, we now have had another quarter of dropped sales. Hopefully you can see the correlation, the January 2020 right here, when they dropped the interest rates almost to zero. And of course, at the same time, we saw a spike in sales. So the only thing that's happening is now the rates are going up and we're seeing a drop in sales. So this is very easily explained. When rates are low, sales are high, borrowing costs are better, and consumption is higher. When rates go up, people pull back, and that's what's happening right now. The first thing that will happen is that the market will go back into equilibrium, which of course is traditionally 4 to 6 months of MLS listings. That's very typical. It has not been that way for a while as a result of these low interest rates. So all that's happening is these interest rates are going up and it's starting to normalize the housing market. The next thing that's going to happen here is that prices will continue to drop. We're already seeing price cuts in many markets as I speak. More supply, more inventory, less buyers, lower prices. That is basic supply and demand. So how the Federal Reserve might crash the real estate market? By continuing to rise these interest rates and continuing to see lower home sales to save the economy from high inflation. I believe that the Federal Reserve is trying to take care of inflation, which impacts everyone, and is waiting to deal with the recession later. And as you can see from the historical effective federal funds rate, we've been significantly higher. And if you take a look at this chart right here, here's where we are right here. You can see it's hardly anything on this chart. They have a lot of tools in their toolbox to try to mitigate these inflationary times that we're all experiencing. And we might be going into a recession too, but they're going to deal with that later. The solution for you is to pay attention to the next 3 Federal Reserve meetings this year as you can start to see them increase in the federal funds rate and to see exactly what's going to happen to new home sales and to inventory. You should be making sure that you have plenty of cash reserves and that you're fixing your interest rates today so that you understand and know what your cash flow is, because you can make sure that it's the same next year and the year after, because rates are increasing. For those of you who are afraid of a recession, we're going to talk about that more in my recession protection strategy video that I'm doing next, and exactly some of the techniques that the rich do to protect themselves during an economy that's going into a downturn.